Kinnara is an extremely strong marksman in Call of Dragons, so today I want to give you a guide about all the things you need, which of her skills are important, which talents to choose, who to pair her with, and which artifacts to use, because man, those artifacts are really crucial. So stick around in this video for the things you really need to know about Kinnara. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and Kinnara was the very first lucky spin commander that we got when I started playing Call of Dragons. And this is how you unlock her from the Lucky Wheel, an event that might show up, or maybe you'll get a different hero in yours when you first start playing, Madeline or Bakshi. However, she is really strong, and in the very least, if you aren't spending in the game, try to at least unlock her in her first lucky spin when she shows up. Alternatively, if needed, you could do this over the course of multiple wheels when she shows up if you're low on gems because you've been going for VIP. And yes, I think VIP 8 is a slam dunk higher priority than spinning the wheel. Because remember, when you get to VIP level 8, you get another research queue, and that's like a 24-hour speed up worth of value every single day for the rest of time. So VIP 8 would always be my priority over wheel spins, but getting an unlock would be nice, and spinning to 10 whenever this shows up for extra value would be good. Now, the reason that Kinnara is really strong is, of course, because of her skills, and she does single target damage. The first skill here does 1400 damage factor and makes it so the target deals 15% less damage for 5 seconds. That is a wicked debuff. And remember, Kinnara is a debuffing hero. This will be super relevant. From here, Provocation. When in the field, 20% more normal attack damage and 10% less hero skill damage taken. Now, the way that normal attack damage works is it's the damage that you deal when you are directly targeting something and the damage you deal when someone is targeting you. That's called counterattack damage, and that's a part of what you get from a normal attack damage boost. From there is Hunter's Pace, the third skill. All marksman units in Kinnara's Legion gain 30% attack. And we're not done. When Kinnara's Legion is attacked, she has a 20% chance to gain physical riposte and inflict slow on the target, increasing her Legion's physical counterattack damage by an upwards of 30%, and also reducing the target's march speed by 20%. So this is both a debuff onto the enemy and a buff onto herself, which is important. We'll talk about that in a bit. You'll notice that every single skill is good in the open field here, which is why she is, in my estimation, better than Nico. Although Nico you can get from gold keys, so if you're not spending, he is a really nice pickup. Contrastingly, Kinnara is very good because all her skills are good in the field. And lastly, Kinnara's expertise. When her Legion launches a normal attack, they have a 20% chance to inflict defense break, yet another debuff, reducing the defense by 20% for 3 seconds. There is no internal cooldown listed on this, so theoretically it could trigger back to back. And these debuffs are all really, really important when we go look at her talents and ultimately who we're going to pair her with. Now, she is a marksman PvP control hero, and you know that I love the PvP and control trees, specifically the control tree. So let's go in and get a look at these talents here. And my recommendation for your foundation talents is, of course, to get the march speed, always critical in PvP. From there, you need to get health, and this is important. Your critical talent here is Backstabber. When you inflict a debuff against the enemy Legion, you deal 2% more damage for the next 5 seconds, and this has an internal cooldown of 5 seconds. It can only trigger once every 5. So this is important. This is why you want lots of debuffs. And how do you get lots of debuffs with Kinnara? Well, easily. You go into the control tree, which not only gives you march speed off the rip, which is really, really good. We're going to go and we're going to pick up the extra attack. We're going to skip out on the normal attack damage taken reduction. We're going to skip out on the counterattack damage boost, okay? And we're going to go for more rage, high spirits. We're skipping out on the hero skill damage taken reduction. We're skipping out on the boosted normal attack damage. The thing is that her active skill is so good. If you have an epic hero, you might say, well, I don't care as much about rage and active skills, but you probably still care about them a lot. But on a legendary hero with big skill damage, you want to generate as much rage as you can at every opportunity. High spirits is the play. And that is why we're also taking Soul Siphon. Now, this is a little bit of a contentious choice in some ways, because if you're not being attacked, Soul Siphon doesn't do anything. But when you are being attacked, this will take 40 rage from the enemy and give it to you, and this doesn't list any internal cooldown. So if you were getting hit by a bunch of people, you're already generating a lot of rage, but you also have the potential to steal that rage from them, which reduces the damage they ultimately can deal to you. From here, again, we're skipping Cyclone Seal, although I think this is good. When you cast a rage skill, you could slow the enemy. We're skipping it, and you can see my build here goes for yet another March Speed ability. When your Legion enters battle, they slow the target Legion. This is amazing. 30% slow for 10 seconds is absolutely evil. It is maniacal. So this is great. Love Blindside. Very powerful at trapping your enemy into combat with you. From there, I like debuffs because debuffs scale infinitely with the number of players that hit your target. Every player that hits your target will get the benefit of this, which is that you have a 10% chance to inflict defense break, reducing their defense by 5% for 5 seconds. Look, it ain't much. Okay, it ain't much, but it does trigger this over here, your Backstabber. So we're looking for more ways to get debuffs to give you more ways to keep your 2% all damage boost from Backstabber. You get that from Blindside, you get that from Ambush, and lastly, we're getting just a little bit of healing, because now, whenever you inflict a debuff, you heal for 150 factor. This only can trigger once every 10 seconds, but because you didn't take any of the other tanky stuff down here, you definitely benefit a lot from that healing. You'll have to trust me on that. Lastly, we take Reticent. When your Legion casts a rage skill, they have a 25% chance to silence the target and prevent them from casting rage skills for 2 seconds. I appreciate that sometimes this will do nothing. But I also want to point out that there's no internal cooldown listed, which there is a chance that you will silence your enemy for many turns in a row, or that multiple people target the same thing and they silence the enemy. And in Rise of Kingdoms, which is what this game is based on, a silence-based hero is one of the most powerful in the game and has been a staple for fighting in the open field since its release into the game. That's Guan Yu. So the ability to take a talent point to make your hero like Guan Yu is insane. And this is a chance to trigger on the active skill of both heroes, because it doesn't say only on Kinnara's active skill. It just says when casting rage skills. Well, you have a primary and a deputy hero. So that means a 25% chance to silence them when your first hero does their active skill, and then a 25% chance when your secondary, the deputy, uses their active skill. That's amazing. I'm all in. Now from here, we're going in to get overall attack boost, and then I want to get March Speed. Very small March Speed boost. Well, I mean 10%. I guess it's not nothing. I'm going to take March Speed everywhere I can get it. Everywhere I can get it is value, especially because unlike mages, marksmen do need to be a little bit closer to your target. From here, we're going for High Spirits again. And courtesy of AB to Beast, who talked to the support crew for Call of Dragons, we know that these two effects are superimposed. I don't know exactly what that means, but the word itself implies stacking as opposed to conflicting with each other or not working together. So we're going for rage at every opportunity, because now we are generating rage when they hit us, we're generating rage from normal attacks, and we are silencing them when we use rage skills. So we're taking all the rage we can get. And I don't love your choices over here. Neither is good, but I'm taking Army of Valor because it's proactive. When increases your damage dealt by 1% every 10 seconds for a maximum of 3%. I mean, it ain't much, but we take it, okay? The other option here is something defensive. You could go a slightly more tanky build if you wanted. It's not proactive. I don't like being, not proactive. I would rather have something that helps me all the time. So Luck of the Draw is a more tanky option. Now, this means we skipped out on a couple things. It means we've skipped out on the marksman tree, and it means we've skipped out on the top of the PvP tree. Now, at the top of the PvP tree, you can make it so that when you're casting rage skills, your Legion gains hit points. Hey, you're not here to just gain health. That's not what her Legion's for. Also, Breach Blade, we're skipping this. When your Legion launches a normal attack, you could inflict a defense break. This is actually good. This would be a consideration. But silences are way better, so we're all in on the silences, baby. And then if we go down the marksman tree, you actually have some good options here. When casting rage skills, there's a 50% chance that your next rage skill will deal more damage. If you are using 2 marksman units together, and your deputy, that's your secondary hero, is a legendary hero, then I would say Shower of Blows could be really good. But that's not what I'm doing. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So I definitely wasn't going to go for that. And then Bullseye, when your Legion consists entirely of marksman units, they gain 5 stacks of attack. And it lasts for 10 seconds. Each stack increases their attack by 1%, but your normal attacks remove those stacks. So here's how this works. You get in a battle, boom, you have 5% attack. Next turn, it's 4%, then it's 3%, then it's 2%, then it's 1%. 5 seconds later, boom, you get your 5 stacks again. 5%, 4%, 3%, 2%, 1%. Wait 5 seconds, boom, starts over. That's how Bullseye works, I think. And it's interesting, but we skip that, okay? I mean, bro, the silence effect is amazing. And also, I think this is, if not better, allow me to explain my logic. I wanted the March speed and I wanted the rage over here. And I could get both of those things on my way to Army of Valor. Whereas here I have to choose between rage and March speed, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted them both. So that's another part of the reason we went into the PvP tree and why I'm recommending that build. The last reason we didn't go into Marksman is the final talents, Pursuit. When your Legion consists of Marksmen, they inflict fragility when casting rage skills, increasing normal attack damage taken by 10% for 5 seconds. I love debuffs. I do love debuffs, okay? And it's decent. And then from here, Burst Shot. Your Marksman Legion launches a normal attack. They deal additional hero skill damage 150, but can only trigger once every 10 seconds. On an epic hero, flat damage factor boosts are interesting. On a legendary hero that already have tons and tons of damage factor, the 150 factor just doesn't stack up. So that's the build that I'm recommending. You go to Reticent, you go to Army of Valor, you get some rage, you do lots of debuffs. Which means, by the way, you have some interesting options for pairings, because the sort of standard pairing you're going to hear is Nico primary with Kinnara secondary. And I think that makes sense because Nico does a critical debuff himself. He makes it so you reduce the defense of your target, and then boom, you hit him with a big hit from Kinnara. And I think that order makes sense. But I also think that the talents on Kinnara are way, way, way cooler. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm using Kinnara with Hosk, the pay-to-win way to go here. This combo is really good, even though you don't get that many buffs on Kinnara to synergize with the expertise on Hosk. At the start of the game, if you're spending like a crazy person, then you will have Hosk expertise, and you pair with Kinnara. But let's get real, okay? Most people aren't going to be in that position, and I think the Nico primary, Kinnara secondary is far, far more likely to be what you do. And even with just 5-1-1-1, I think you're in a really good spot to use both Kinnara and Nico together. 5-1-1-1 means 5 points in the first skill, and then 1 of each of the subsequent skills. Okay, now that will be comparable to your epic options, by the way, once your epics are fully expertised, or awakened, as it were. And when you are awakened with Krieg, I think he is an awesome pairing. He is also a ranged hero, only 3 skills relevant in the open field, plus the awakening. Krieg does area of effect damage, and let me tell you, I am such a big fan of that. So I like the Krieg combo. I think it is good. You get an attack boost as well. If you had flyers, you'd also get a defense boost. So if you were, I think one of the factions perhaps has a ranged unit that works with that. But you know, I think it's Wilderberg. If you were Wilderberg, you could use that combo and use their special unit. And the other option is Gwanwyn. And I think Gwanwyn is really good. She does single target damage, and it's damage over time. She does hits in quick succession. It's not exactly damage over time, actually. It's you're doing damage on multiple turns. You're not debuffing the enemy. She does have a peacekeeping skill, but her third skill gives you attack and march speed is freaking huge, man. So yes, more march speed seems like a great thing to use with Kinnara. And also, when you have more than 50% of units, you deal extra damage, which is great. Expertise makes it so that you have a 50% chance to apply another debuff, which has great synergy with Kinnara as well. So I like that combo. Now, there is one other obvious last combo I want to talk about, which is your sort of backup option if you're out of, for whatever reason, stamina on your heroes, and that is Eliana. She will work. She is really tanky. She doesn't really have any synergy. She's just giving you some tankiness. So it's an option. You can do it. She's also a peacekeeper, which means, you know, one of her skills is not going to be relevant. Now, from here, I want to get to several heroes that I think could work, and I haven't tested it, but it's actually very interesting. And those heroes include First of all, Thea. Now, with Thea, you'd obviously rather being on the sort of flying unit plan. However, this is really interesting. She will shield you and make it so that your next hero skill damage is boosted. And it doesn't have a time limit. It just ends when a rage skill is cast. So if you use Kinnara primary, Thea secondary, that means you'll get this boost for Kinnara's next active skill, which is really interesting. I think this could work, and she's got all skills relevant in the field. She's got an attack bonus, a hero skill damage taken reduction, a defense boost, and when you have flying units, you also get an attack boost and a march speed boost. Maybe this means you could use Wilderberg, but I know Thea flies, but I know that Kinnara doesn't, so I don't actually know. Even though she's called the Flying Dagger, I don't know if you can use all flying units and get her to fly. I don't think that's the case. Anyways, continuing on here with some other eccentric options. Is a really interesting one. I think this actually works. Inflicts debuffs on 2 nearby legions, increasing all damage taken. Oh, okay, that's good. And then also lightly heals several friendly units surrounding your target. That doesn't say magic healing factor or physical healing factor. Like, I think it'll work. And the range is very far on this hero. So I think that all works. Then there's a gathering skill. Then you get hit points, which is okay. And then when you're in battle, you gain unyielding. So this is a buff, reducing counterattack damage taken and removing 1 debuff effect. I mean, I think she works in a really, really strange way that I didn't expect. I haven't tested it. This is just theory crafting. The other one that I haven't tested that is really interesting theory crafting is Pan. And Pan is going to heal as well, and also grant onslaught, increasing your normal attack damage. I mean, that's fine, because she's the secondary, right? You're boosting your normal attacks, which is great. That's what you're doing for the next 5 seconds anyways, pretty much. And she also boosts your defense and your hero skill damage taken, and also removes debuff effects when attacked once every 5 seconds. I mean, I think that could work, although obviously it's not a first pair that I would recommend. Right? Nico, Kinnara seems like just the obvious choice. And most people don't have enough troops to fall back on some of these really alternate combos once they run out of their hero stamina on their other heroes. Now, this brings us, of course, to the artifacts, which, man, let me tell you, I have come to really respect the absurdity of the damage that these can deal. And your number 1 slam dunk pick is Shadow Blades. This is your marksman equivalent of the slam dunk choice Phoenix Eye, which is arguably one of the number 1 artifacts in the sort of early game. But Shadow Blades is the equivalent. It does big damage right in front of you, and that's what you're here to do anyways. So slam dunk, you go for that, which gives attack and legion attack for both, so your marksman and overall. And that's really the legendary that I would choose. There is another legendary option here. And I just don't think that the Heart of Kamasi is what I would pick. This is something that will buff your nearby legions. I feel like this gets more interesting if you're pairing with Hosk. Like, you have my attention. But I feel like it's hard to overvalue just doing raw damage. Do you see what I mean? Like, when you do raw damage, you've done raw damage. When you buff your units, you have a promise of doing more damage, but you might not. The enemy could run away. There's a lot of situations where you buff and then, you hit somebody who's not actually, attacking or whatever. Heart of Kamasi does seem cool. I think in big group fights, it is cool, okay? But I just don't think it's as good as going for Shadow Blades. And I wouldn't put it as being even close. Now, from there, if you wanted some epics that do damage, we've got to look at something like the Heart Piercer. Heart Piercer is your budget version of Shadow Blades, sort of. It doesn't do area of effect damage, but it does do a debuff that is a defense break. So this is a really good pickup. Reducing the defense of your enemy is very good. At max amount, it is 15%, and you have a 65% chance to inflict that. There is one option at the epic tier, and it's kind of the equivalent of the Heart of Kamasi, but obviously less powerful. That's the Archery Master's Manual. That gives you defense and also marksman unit defense. And I think this is fine. When it activates, you get attack for 20 seconds. 20 seconds is a long time, okay? And 25% is a lot of attack. But you're just buffing yourself, and there's just way too much of a chance that your enemy walks away from you, you leave from combat, and the majority of this effect is wasted. So I think the slam dunk here is the Heart Piercer, unless I've missed some other artifact here, which I don't think that I have. I guess there is Bomb Flinger, but nope, that's just Darklings and Dark Creatures and Behemoths. And don't make that mistake. A lot of people have invested in artifacts that only work on Darklings, Dark Creatures, and Behemoths. Do not. That is not a PvP thing, okay? I suppose the last thing we can talk about with Kinnara is the order in which you work on her skills, because they're all relevant in PvP. I would say once you max the first skill, you could star her up and unlock the others. A best case scenario is that you would unlock the first 2 skills, max the first skill, then you unlock the second skill, max the second skill, then you go in and just unlock the last 2, and where they end up doesn't really matter. You could work on that over the course of subsequent wheels, or if you were not spending, you could use tokens on her if you wanted to. And of course, between Nico and Kinnara, I think the tokens should go into Kinnara because she's got all skills that are relevant in the field. That said, the reason you might not do that is that you can't get Kinnara from gold keys. In other words, if you're only bringing 1 archer for whatever reason, right? Like, Nico will eventually get lots of skills onto him by virtue of getting him from gold keys. This also means that at some point when you've expertised him through your gold keys, many months or years down the road, that, like, you know, getting him from gold keys is suddenly worthless. Whereas putting universals into Kinnara, theoretically her wheel stops showing up at some point. And if that is true, then, you know, there's no other way to get her than putting universals into her. I don't actually know what happens once her wheels have passed if you haven't unlocked her. So I would try to get that unlock. And, you know, gold keys are fun, but I don't think they're going to put her into the gold keys in subsequent seasons. Maybe they will. But if you found this video helpful, do me a huge favor, throw a like on the video and consider subscribing. If you want to see when I was fighting with Kinnara, I'll have a card in the end screen for a live stream where I used specifically that Kinnara Haas combo, and I thought it was very good. Also, if you wanted to see a overall video with pairing recommendations, whether you're free to play or pay to win, card will be in the end screen for that as well.